Floor is yours, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm Yasser Franklin Hodge, the Chair of the Public Improvement Commission, and I call to order the hearing of March 27th, 2025. Mr. Lyman, would you please take the roll call?
Certainly. Would the representative from the Public Works Department please state their name for the record?
Yasser Franklin Hodge.
Property Management Department, please do the same.
Joseph Callahan.
Transportation Department.
Amy Porty.
Water and Sewer Commission.
Peter Salvatore.
Inspectional Services.
Brian Roner.
Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
Carol Young.
We have a full quorum.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, on to the first item on our agenda, hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of the minutes of the PIC hearing held on March 13th, 2025. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 13th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. On to the utility pole hearing section of the agenda, starting with utility pole 1 on a joint petition by Verizon New England Incorporated and Eversource Energy for a utility pole installation to install one new private utility pole within Belfort Street, Dorchester, to be located on its southerly side at the side of 1048 Dorchester Avenue, generally between Auckland Street and Dorchester Avenue. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and walk us through the proposal?
Yes, good morning. Name is Alexander, last name Marrero, M-A-R-R-E-R-O. I'm an employee of PIKE Telecom and Renewables LLC. I'll be representing Verizon of New England Incorporated about the petition in front of you this evening. Verizon is petitioning to place one new joint-owned pole to be number 1 to be placed on the southern side of Belfort Street, approximately 95 feet from existing pole 2 and approximately 45 feet from the center line of Dorchester Avenue. Verizon is making this petition in order to provide support for existing pole 2. The new pole to be placed would be a 45-foot Class 2 standard wood utility pole, and it would be joint owned between Verizon and Eversource, doing business as N-Star Electric.
All right, are you able to share the plans for this? If the proponents are not able to share, Todd, are you able to pull these up?
Yeah, I can pull these up. 1 second. Oops. Here you go, Alex.
Okay, so that is the Exhibit A for this petition.
Excellent. Commissioners, questions, comments?
There used to be a pole there with a street light on it. I guess, do we want a street light on it? The hole in the ground in the picture is a former wooden pole.
Okay, so for my records, we're treating it as a new pole because the old pole was removed for unknown reasons. Well, that's why we're
Say there was a former pole 1. And so the old one, pole 2 has a street light. The old pole 1 used to have a street light. Do we want a street light on the new pole 1?
Alex, I can put you and Verizon in touch with our street lighting folks to have that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. Is Verizon comfortable if there is a desire to have a streetlight back on that pole to work with our street lighting division and to do any necessary installation when that pole is reinstalled?
Yes, if you do it, if you add it as a, one of the conditions of the petition, then yes, Verizon will be comfortable with that.
Okay. Commissioners, other questions?
Can the team confirm the clearance on the sidewalk behind the proposed pole location as well as proximity to the pedestrian ramp that appears to be next to it?
So you're asking how many feet would be between the rear of the pole and the edge of the sidewalk?
As well as assurances for the ped ramp to not be disturbed, or if it is disturbed during construction, that it be reconstructed.
So Verizon does not expect to have to touch the handicap ramp located at the corner of the intersection. The 95 feet would place it about 5 feet from the end of the handicap ramp. Let me see, I believe I have a picture of it. The proposed location. So basically, on the other side of where the hole used to be, that's where the new pole is going to be.
So it will be on the other side of where the pole used to be, correct?
Excuse me, come again?
Sorry, I think I might have becoming mic issues, but the pole will be installed next to where the pole was previously, correct?
Yeah, to the east of where the old pole used to be.
Are we looking east in this photo?
Yes.
Okay.
So in this photo, you're looking towards existing pole 2, which is that pole in the distance. And basically the patch of asphalt, that is the old pole for where the old pole used to be. And we will be right behind that. So obviously we need to cut up and restore the sidewalk once the new pole is installed. But again, we don't expect to do anything with the handicap ramp at the intersection.
If you could just note that if the pedestrian ramp is impacted, that Verizon will be responsible for reconstructing that ramp.
Yes, that is, I'll make, if you do it, if you add it as a condition for the petition and we find that we did in fact damage or in any way change the handicap ramp, then we'll go ahead and restore it.
One more, looking at this photo, just to make sure that the petition will reflect that, or the final order will reflect that this original pole location will be, that sidewalk flag will be fully restored in concrete.
Okay.
Commissioners, any other questions, comments? PIC staff or members of the public?
I believe we had a couple members of the public in the 801 hearing room. Ashley or Chris, does anybody want to add testimony or ask questions?
Todd, so on this item, we're all set. They wanted to give testimony on the utility pole hearing too.
Great. I will remind the public if you're logged on remotely and you wish to add testimony or ask questions, please use the raised hand function, which can be found at the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen. I do not see any other comments at this time, and PIC staff is all set.
All right, hearing no other comments, do I hear a motion to approve utility pole hearing number 1, subject to the aforementioned conditions?
I'll make a motion to approve a joint petition by Verizon New England and Eversource Energy for utility pole installation on Belford Street, as read into the record by the chair, contingent upon coordination with the street lighting department about the potential for a street light, restoration of the old pole location, and a note regarding any potential destruction of the accessible ramp.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. On to utility pole hearing number 2, on a petition by Verizon New England Incorporated for a utility pole installation to install 1 new private utility pole within public alley number 442 Boston proper, relocated at the rear of 262 to 264 Newbury Street, generally between Fairfield Street and Gloucester Street. Would the proponents please reintroduce themselves, their affiliations, and walk us through what you are proposing?
Yes, Alexander, last name Marrero, Pike Telecom. Verizon is hereby petitioning to place 1 new sole-owned pole to be numbered number 1 to be placed at a point located at the rear of 262 Newbury Street in Public Alley 442. Verizon is hereby making this petition in order to provide new service to 264 Newbury Street. The new pole to be installed will be a 30-foot Class 4 standard wood utility pole and will be sole owned or 100% owned by Verizon. In front of you is the Exhibit A for this pole. It will be placed approximately 87 feet from existing street light located at the rear of 254 Newbury Street, and approximately 90 feet from existing street light located at the rear of 270 Newbury Street. I also have a picture of the proposed location. As mentioned in the petition, the proposed location is at the rear of 262 Newbury Street. It's basically on the property line with 264 Newbury Street.
Thank you very much. Can you speak to the purpose of this pole? I'm noticing, for example, what appears to be Verizon infrastructure attached to the side of the building in this photo. What is the intention with this pole?
So we received notice from the existing owner of 264 Newbury Street that they wish to remove existing Verizon facilities that are running on the wall at the rear of 264 Newbury Street. In order to provide continuation of service, Verizon has decided to place a new pole, the proposed pole. Once the new pole is placed, we will be connecting that pole via underground facilities to our existing conduit network located along Public Alley 442. Once that is completed, we will be running aerially from the new pole over to 264 Newbury Street and then to the interior of the building. So yeah, the primary reason we are not following the cables as they are right now is because the owner has stated that they do not want the cables at the rear of the building.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, questions, comments? Hearing none, PIC staff and members of the public who wish to speak on this?
Ashley, Chris, go ahead. Just please have members of the public state their name clearly and their affiliation, if any.
My name is Erin Lawless. I'm representing 264 Newbury Street, and I don't believe I initiated any of this request for service or polls or anything. I would like to explore not other alternatives to putting a pole in our parking because it's a hardship on being able to lease and being able to use the property to come and go.
Thank you for that. Are there other folks in the hearing room who wish to speak?
Hello. My name is Michael Jambro. I'm representing 262 Newbury. Number one, I got no notice of any that they wanted to put a pole in or even remove these wires from the back of the building. Number two, if they put this pole there, it's going to be an economic hardship for me because you see that BMW and that Volvo right there, those are rented spots that I rent out. Also, because they're not going to be able, if this pole is put right here, they're not going to be able to pull in and out because I have pictures here of the, where do I put this? Here? Pictures here of the, I can't see if this is the right way. The curb on the other side is about 8 to 9 inches. I can't get over that. Also, there is a fence right there as well. And the fence, if it's supposed to be a 5-foot sidewalk, how come there's a fence on the other side coming up right to the curb? It's tight already for me to get in and out. There's going to be no way for me or any of my tenants to get in or out afterwards. Another thing, this is a home where I live at as well. This is a hardship. And then you go down to 276 Newbury Street where they bumped out in the back, and they didn't put a pole up. They attached it from across the other side of the alley, as you can see. And as my neighbor at 264 said, I do not believe she initiated this at all. And the first notice I got was them cutting these lines into the back of her property. Again, this is this is the right of way, but still that's in front of my property here, where this BMW is. No notice that they were going to do any type of work at all. I don't understand how that goes through, or it's allowed to happen. And like I said, it's just going to be a hardship. I'm not going to be able to pull in and out of my spaces. I'm going to lose one space at the minimum. So I think there has to be another alternative to the pole and its placement. And I think that's all I have to say. You know, it's an economic hardship, and also I live there, so it's a hardship for me pulling in and out. And it's going to be, I won't be able to pull in and out at all if this pole is there, and I'm going to lose 1 to 2 spaces. So that's 1 to 2, income that I'm using to pay real estate taxes and everything. So, like I just said, reiterate, I think the pole has to be, we've had to find another solution to the pole or find a different placement for it. Thank you for listening to me. I think that's all I have to say at this time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the hearing room who wishes to speak?
Yeah, sure, there's nobody else.
All right. So seeing no one else with a raised hand on the chat, I guess there seems to be, no pun intended, some cross wires here, right? Because it sounds like the stated purpose for this relates to removal of wiring from an existing building that whose owner has just said that they weren't involved in initiating that process. And so I think we need Verizon to go back and, first figure out why this is happening, and then second, if there is a reason to do this, it does seem like there are significant concerns that we've heard about vehicles and the ability to pull in and out. And so I think at a minimum, if Verizon desires to proceed with this, we would need them to conduct some amount of turning movement analysis to, be able to show that this pole will, whether or not this pole will negatively impact access to these driveways. But I think more fundamentally, it's a question of, it seems unclear why exactly this pole is needed in the first place, given some of the testimony that we just heard. So my recommendation here would be that we continue this and allow Verizon time to regroup, to connect with the immediate abutters, to do additional analysis to make sure that there is a clear and necessary reason for a pole to be here at all. And then if so, come back to us with those pieces of information. But it does not feel to me like it's an appropriate moment to approve this.
Also, I'll note that all of our streetlights have bollards in front of them. Some of them look like they've been utilized. So, right, like I think that here too, it would need to be considered, does this need to be a pole with something in front of it as well, which would impact everything else about the usability.
Yep.
Okay, we'll take all your concerns back to the engineering department and we'll be in touch with your representative, with the commission, figure out the next steps for this petition.
That would be great. I think as a formal matter, we probably need a motion to continue. We can continue for 2 weeks, we can continue for 4 weeks. We want to make sure you have time to adequately address this and engage with the local residents, but tell us what you think is appropriate for that.
I will jump in and just mention that Verizon has a completely unrelated poll hearing scheduled for April 24th, which is 4 weeks from today. So maybe it makes sense to push to that so that they can attend just one more hearing instead of 2.
Sorry, guys, just to jump in, is there an opportunity for a little bit of additional testimony from
Yeah, of course.
the public? Okay.
Hi, this is Michael Giambro again, Representative 262. When I met Mr. Butterfield from Verizon, he never mentioned anything about 264 or the purpose of this pole was for 264. He told me the purpose of this pole was for 260, which they're redoing the building next door to me. So I was misled by Mr. Butterfield, that this was, made for 260. The reason this pole was going in was to satisfy the needs of 260, not 264. So that's all I'm saying, is that I was led to believe this was to satisfy the needs for the building they're putting next to me, redoing the building. And it had nothing to do with 264. So therefore, he misrepresented the whole thing. And I think that's all I have to add. I mean, I was totally misled. He's saying it's for 260. Now Verizon's up here saying it's for 264. That's not how things should go. That's not how things should go at all. That's very not kosher of Verizon. That's all I can say. Very misleading, very deceiving. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I think we will look for, as noted, Verizon to come back with, if they want to continue with this action with clarity of purpose and the other analysis that would be needed here, as well as some robust engagement with all of the abutters who would be affected by the addition of this pole in Sally. So I think we'll withhold any final judgment, but I think you've heard some significant concerns from residents and from the commission about just making sure that we get this to something that feels appropriate and well considered. So, Alexandra, is April 24th a reasonable date for continuance on this?
Yeah, that's reasonable for now. If for some reason Verizon needs more time, then we'll ensure that we notify the commission before then.
If the request was by 260, the pole should be behind 260, so I think that should be part of your evaluation too, right? Like when you're, it seems like you maybe put it evenly spaced between streetlights more so than, right, where the need, right, like that. behind the person asking for it.
Yes, I'll make a note of that when I talk to the engineering department about this.
All right, with that, do I hear a motion to continue utility pole hearing number 2?
I'll make a motion to continue utility pole hearing number 2.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. All right, we'll see you back in a month.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. On to our next agenda item, public hearing number 1 on a joint petition by the City of Boston Transportation Department and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in West Roxbury, consisting of curb realignment, roadway and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, specialty pavement, traffic signal infrastructure, street lighting infrastructure, storm drain infrastructure, landscaping, driveway curb cuts, and raised crosswalks. South Street generally between Fletcher Street and Walter Street, Walter Street generally between South Street and Hewlett Street, Fletcher Street northwest of South Street, Robert Street southeast of South Street, Farquhar Street northwest of South Street, South Walter Street southeast of South Street, Hewlett Street northwest of Walter Street. This was new business on March 13th as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repair Plan, South Street and Walter Street, Roslindale, 6 sheets dated March 6, 2025. Would the, 2025, excuse me, would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an update on anything that has changed since your new business hearing?
Morning, Commissioners. My name is John Monticelli. I'm with the Infrastructure and Design team within the Streets Cabinet. I'm here representing the project and the project team. We are requesting a continuance to come back in 2 weeks. Right now, we are finalizing the details of the curb extension that was requested by the chief as a design revision. So where the initial concept layout was fruitful. So we are just working through the final engineering details of that. So no problems to report on that direction. And we do not yet have a meeting with Lana, the neighborhood association of this, primarily this area. We've reached out, made a connection through ONS, that the president or the ED of that organization, we will have a meeting with her and her associates soon to talk about both this project scope area as well as the Center and Weld intersection. So we'll kind of have a twofer with the community, but we have not had that happen just yet.
All right, excellent. Well, we are happy to give you a few more weeks to complete that work. Before we officially make a motion, commissioners, PIC staff, members of the public, anyone would like to speak on this?
PIC staff is all set. We also have a meeting with John and a couple others to discuss some maintenance details next week, but that's not a major issue right now.
All right, seeing no raised hands, do we hear a motion to continue public hearing number 1 to April 10th?
I'll make a motion to continue public hearing item number 1 as read into the record by the chair until April 10th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. We'll see you back in 2 weeks. Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.
On to public hearing number 2 on a petition by the City of Boston Public Facilities Department for the making of specific repairs within Parish Street, public way, Dorchester, located on its southerly side at the side of 44 Winter Street, generally east of Winter Street, consisting of curb realignment, roadway and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, specialty pavement, street lighting infrastructure, street trees, and driveway curb cuts. New business on March 13th, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repair Plan, Paris Street, 44 Winter Street, Dorchester, 2 sheets dated March 6, 2025. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, give us an update on any changes since your new business hearing, and any responses to issues or questions that were raised at that time.
Hello, Hassan Sakbeh, City of Boston Public Facilities Department, Project Manager. I'm joined by Chris Thomas from BSC Group, and I will revert to him for any updates in the drawings. And in regards to the maintenance, response would be that we're working with the appropriate agencies.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go, Chris.
Yeah, Chris Thomas with BSC Group. Yeah, I can share the plan. We did make just a couple updates for the comments last time we met. So here's the plan for the specific repairs at Parish Street, and I believe it was Disabilities that wanted this this accessible ramp at the end of our sidewalk to have a 4-foot threshold. So that has been updated from 3 foot to 4 foot at the threshold here, and then they wanted this to be confirmed that this existing ramp at the corner of Winter Street and Parish Street opposite our project is compliant, and I confirmed in this field that this is ADA compliant, and just put a note to protect it on the updated plan.
All right. Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Appreciate the team for making those changes.
Other questions, comments? I believe that we had some questions around the intended maintenance plan for the furnishing zone, permeable pavers and tree pits along the side of Parish Street here. Can you speak to where we are at on that question?
Yeah, as previously stated in the introduction, we're currently working with the appropriate agencies to iron out those details.
So it feels like that's a kind of important element of this for us to have sorted here. Speaking on behalf of the Public Works Department, right, it is our hope and expectation that we'll not be, on the hook for maintaining these new structures that are being added here. And I think I would feel more comfortable to have a commitment that there is some plan in place that would result in ensuring that Public Works is not so burdened. But I guess, can you say anything more about where you're at in those conversations and whether there's any level of commitment that you can offer for maintenance?
No, I will not say that there's any level of commitment from any parties involved 100% at this time, to my understanding.
Right, and I guess my name is Lisa Guscott. I'm an assistant director here at the Public Facilities Department, and I'm working with Hassan. And as he has stated, we are working with the appropriate individuals as is laid out, with PFD and our process, and trying to get a resolution with the LMI agreements that were requested at the last meeting. We just can't give an update on it at this time. We've been working on it, but we have not been able to get to a resolution before this meeting.
Got it.
But we are actively working on it and understand your concerns.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. I mean, I think, we do sometimes approve items when there is directional clarity on maintenance, but not necessarily a finalized agreement. However, in this case, it sounds like we're not even at the point where we have directional clarity or any ability to make an on-the-record statement about the expected maintenance outcomes at a high level. And given that, I am not comfortable approving this right now. And, I think it seems like we're likely through the design issues, but I think having some level of clear direction on where we're headed with this from maintenance is important before we want to sign off on any specific design. So, I'll give my fellow commissioners an opportunity to speak if they have anything to add on this, as well as PIC staff, but I might suggest a continuance here as a to give yourself 2 more weeks to sort through this issue, and then we can finalize the approvals.
I can jump in and just mention that we have had plenty of conversations with the project team surrounding a number of details related to both this phase of this project as well as the previous phase. I know PFC or PFD, I'm not sure which, is working on finalizing the easement agreement that was needed for the previous phase. I am not sure who the intended maintenance partner would be for these specialty features, but as you mentioned, Chief, I don't think it's appropriate to expect Public Works to maintain the pavers and the trees specifically.
Are the proponents comfortable with a 2-week continuance to allow this issue to be resolved?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, it's.
All right, any final comments, commissioners, staff, public, members of the public? All right, hearing none, do I hear a motion to continue public hearing number 2 until April 10th?
I'll make a motion to continue public hearing item number 2 as read into the record by the chair until April 10th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. Thank you very much. Appreciate you continuing to work through this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, on to our next item, public hearing number 3 on a joint petition by Mildred Haley 3 Limited Partnership and the Boston Housing Authority for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement adjacent to Parker Street, a public way, Roxbury, located on its easterly side at address number 960 at the rear of 11 Lamartine Street, generally northeast of Bickford Street. New business on March 13th, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Pedestrian Easement Plan, Parker Street, 11 Lamartine Street, Jamaica Lane, one sheet dated January 7th, 2025. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an update on anything that may have changed since your new business hearing?
Sure, good morning. It's Joseph Oliveira, Sherwood Consulting. We're the civil engineers for the project. This is a small easement to accommodate a 5-foot clear sidewalk behind proposed street tree pits. And there have not been any changes since the new business hearing, other than resubmitting this plan just to show some additional detail on it.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions, comments? PIC staff or members of the public?
All set on this one, thank you.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 3?
I'll make a motion to approve a joint petition by Mildred Haley 3 Limited Partnership and the Boston Housing Authority for the acceptance of pedestrian easement on Parker Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On to public hearing number 4 on a petition by 581 Boylston Street owner LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Boston proper, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction as well as new and relocated specialty pavement and groundwater recharge infrastructure. Boylston Street on its northwesterly side at address number 581, generally between Clarendon Street and Dartmouth Street. Public alley number 439 on its southeasterly side, generally between Clarendon Street and Dartmouth Street. This was new business on March 13th, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repairs, 581 Boylston Street, Public Alley number 439, Boston, 5 sheets dated March 26, 2025. The proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an update on anything that has changed since your new business hearing.
Hi, good morning. My name is Vanessa Rozier. I'm with Chevron Partners. I'm the owner rep for the project at 581 Boylston Street. As you had mentioned, we are here for specific repairs in alley number 439 for improvements related to our groundwater recharge system. The only revisions to the plan that have been made, I'm happy to share my screen if you'd like, but the only revisions that have been made to the plan were as per the request of the commission. Those included to delete some notes on page 1 in their entirety and move the survey detailed grading drainage notes to the last sheet. Page 2 revisions included to meet the PWB standards and the added alley number on the title block, the addition of a locus, and an added reference to the areaway license book and page and updated date. Page 3, we increased the scale of the plan and removed the inspection sign-off schedule for BWC. Page 4 did not have any revisions, and page 5 added a reference to the approved MAAB variance and increased the scale of the plan. Happy to share my screen for the updated plan if you would like.
I think we're actually seeing the updated plan.
Yeah, this is Janet Bernardo.
Oh, Janet, hi, you are here. I'm sorry, I didn't realize Janet was here. That's great.
No, I
Janet.
was trying to share it while you were talking. I don't know if I kept up, but that was the goal.
Amazing, thank you.
That's great. Good teamwork. All right. Commissioners, questions, comments? All right, hearing none, PIC staff or members of the public?
I'll mention that the team is working with Chung on the maintenance agreement for these improvements. And I will also mention very minor detail, the sheets are misnumbered. There's actually 2 sheet 3s, so we'll just have that before we go to Mylar.
I did just notice that. That will be corrected.
No big deal, thank you.
All right, with that, do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 4?
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by 581 Boylston Street owner LLC for the making of specific repairs within Boylston Street and Public Alley 439 as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any oppose or abstain? So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
You too. All right. Well, that concludes the public hearing section of our agenda. Moving on to new business, starting with new business 1, Sleeper Street, Congress Street, Seaport Boulevard, South Boston, specific repairs and a joint petition by the City of Boston Public Works Department and the City of Boston Transportation Department. Would proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an overview of what is being proposed here?
I'll start. I'm Janine Crosby. I'm the project oh, Jeff, you're here. I'll let you start. I didn't see you. Jeff Alexis will start.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get situated here. All right. Good morning, Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Jeffrey Alexis with the Public Works Department, petitioning for the proposed changes to our Sleeper Street design. Once again, I'm joined here by our design consultants from CSS and HDR, and I'll momentarily allow them the chance to kind of introduce themselves. But just wanted to provide a little bit of background information in regards to this project. Ultimately, in lieu of the tragic crash that occurred back in March of 2024, we wanted to take another look at our Sleeper Street design to evaluate the proposed safety improvements along this corridor. In coordination with stakeholders, the businesses, the residents of the 4 Point as well as the Seaport neighborhoods, we determined that proposing a directional change along Sleeper Street would provide the most safety benefits for all users along this corridor. This design was ultimately revised not only to further improve safety for all users, but to ensure that we prioritize the safety of pedestrians who represent 30 to 40% of daily travelers. With that, I will turn it over to Janine as well as Matt to kind of get a little bit more into the design and provide a little bit more context.
I'm Janine Crosby. I'm the project manager for the design team from Crosby, Schlesinger, Smallridge. I'm also the landscape architect on the team. With me today is Matthew Gold from HDR. He's our project engineer, and he's going to give the presentation for us today. Matt?
Thank you, Janine. Let me make sure I got the right screen here. Here you go. So the design that we're sharing today has changed in a few ways. Again, trying to prioritize safety and reduce conflict points along the corridor. Previously, we had a two-way design on Sleeper Street. As Jeff mentioned, looking at it again and working with stakeholders and city departments, the decision was made that a one-way southbound movement would provide additional safety benefits. And furthermore, by modifying the design to only be one way, it allowed us to implement some additional sort of associated changes that provided more benefits beyond even just the directional change. So what those would include is the reallocated roadway space where previously it was two-way, now is a one-way southbound lane that is 11.5 feet wide, and the additional roadway space could then be reallocated to a northbound contraflow bike lane that is 6.5 feet wide. And it would be on the east side of Sleeper Street, stretching from Congress Street to Seaport Boulevard. That contraflow bike lane provides the additional benefit of filling in some gaps within the neighborhood's bike network, getting people from sort of A Street to the south through the new bike lanes that are going to be installed on Congress Street, northbound on Sleeper Street, and then to the existing bike facilities that are on Seaport Boulevard. And then in addition to that, some of the street space was reallocated to the sidewalk on the west side of the street. Previously, the existing condition has a very narrow sidewalk that's really only wide enough to put a traffic sign on it. It was not ADA compliant. And with the additional space that we gained, we were able to widen the sidewalk so that it is now 7 feet from building face to curb, so that it is a ADA compliant width from Congress Street, and then if I pop over one screen to sort of the Children's Museum loading dock, that's one straight open area that can be utilized for pedestrian movements. Aside from those, the previous design is largely the same. In terms of the speed humps that we had proposed, there are 3 speed humps along Sleeper Street as well as 2 raised crossings, one sort of at Martin's Park on the northern end of Sleeper Street, as well as one at the southern end of Sleeper Street at the Congress Street intersection. Again, the goal of those being pedestrian safety, really slowing the vehicles down through the corridor adjacent to the Children's Museum, which should improve safety. And the one additional consideration that we made, we previously had a bump out on the corner on the east side of the Sleeper Street as you approach Seaport Boulevard. And with the contraflow bike lane being proposed, wanted to provide a little bit of extra protection for those bikers approaching the intersection from vehicles turning off of Seaport Boulevard onto Sleeper Street. And so there was a couple more median islands similar to those that are being proposed on Congress Street that would provide a little bit of extra protection. So the positioning of the curb ramp on that corner sort of backed up a little bit to allow the space for the bike lane to do that. I think I will pause there. That's the bulk of the changes, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Before I open it up to commissioners for questions, I will just note, and this is me speaking in my Chief of Streets role, there is a active conversation about the directionality of the bike lane and whether it would in fact be a contraflow bike lane or a one-way bike lane going the same direction as vehicular traffic. My understanding is that if this becomes a one-way bike lane, that it would potentially impact this corner design that we just looked at, and that might revert to the previous design involving a bump out. So I believe that that is a question that the team is working to get clarity on in the coming days, and will likely have sorted out before the public hearing. But I just wanted to note that since it's been an ongoing and very active conversation within the Streets Cabinet. Putting that aside, as chair, now commissioners, any other comments or questions that you may have? right, hearing none, PIC staff or members of the public?
Looks like we have a few members of the public. Not sure what I see. The username is begins with Famar. Please unmute yourself and go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Francine Amari Faulkner. I'm with the U.S. Court of Appeals. Just a quick question or clarification. The section of Sleeper Street between Seaport Boulevard and Northern Ave is going to remain a two-way street. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We're not looking at changing the directionality of the section from Seaport Boulevard to Northern Ave.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
No problem. Big Tom?
Yeah, Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Thanks to the thing. Listen, this project that incorporates A Street, Congress Street, and Sleeper Street has been going on for, as some of us know, a number of years, and we appreciate that it's reached this point. We also truly appreciate the city willing to revisit the design of Sleeper Street after Gracie Gonchar was killed on the corner of Congress and Sleeper, and that's primarily what is driving this conversation today. And we shouldn't lose sight of that. We thank the cabinet for first asking the engagement with the people that live on this stretch of Sleeper Street. There's 2 condominium buildings totaling 88 units. There was a meeting with that group on the 16th of January to talk about the one-way option, and then 2 subsequent neighborhood meetings on the 28th of Jan and the 19th of February. And we appreciate the city going through that extensive additional engagement after a number of meetings were held in 2024 and in 2023. The bike lanes, I appreciate, thank you, Chief, for recognizing the conversation that's underway with regard to contra versus one-way direction. The only thing I'd ask is, I believe in the 28th of January meeting, there was a conversation around should it be on the eastern side of Sleeper Street versus the western side of Sleeper Street. The neighborhood believes there's fewer conflicts on the western side. On the eastern side, there's a loading dock, an alleyway entrance, and the entrance to the parking area for the condo buildings. So as that conversation's underway, we just ask you to consider that as well. There's a request from the family, Gracie's family, to have the crosswalk at the corner of Congress and Sleeper painted something in recognition of her and what occurred on that, the tragedy that occurred at that intersection. Not quite sure if that's something that needs to be taken up in PIC in terms of the painting scheme, but if so, we'd like that noted. So during the public hearing, a conversation could be had with that, and happy to get the family engaged with the appropriate members of staff to further that conversation. And 2 other points that clearly aren't PIC related, but I'd be remiss if I didn't raise them. One is with regard to parking. Within the Fort Point area, as I think most of staff know that have kind of been there, they're all historic buildings built upwards of 100 years ago. There's a few newer ones, but most are repurposed, and it's a multi-use neighborhood. There's only 396 parking spots in total for 1,550 residential units. So obviously, parking is at a premium. We just asked that through the entire program, and city staff has agreed to work with the neighborhood association on parking, but I just asked that prior to this being fully approved, that parking plan be agreed to. And then the second would be with regard to construction. I think in the neighborhood meeting on the 28th of January, we made sure that commercial ground floor uses, so, restaurants, if you would, they were present. They clearly want to see a construction plan to minimize disruption to their businesses. I know that comes typically after approval. I just looked, but I also recognize that a number of the stakeholders for that conversation are members of PIC. And so again, I just ask that that also gets worked post-approval, so we end up with a schedule that works for everybody. So that was it, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. And again, speaking of my Chief of Streets hat, I think, well, actually, I'll defer to Amy to speak to the crosswalk, but certainly it is our intention as a city to find a way to memorialize Gracie at this corner in a manner that's consistent with the wishes of the family. And I think certainly, I know there's been some discussions about a decorative crosswalk, and Amy may have a few thoughts on that. I will say, I believe that that can be handled outside of the PIC process, given that that is a pavement marking, which is typically outside of the scope of the PIC. We certainly also will commit to continuing to work on the full parking plan, recognizing the limited number of spaces in the neighborhood. And lastly, I believe that there's been a evaluation of, or there's been a development of a outreach plan related to construction, and it is my understanding that it is the team's intention to share that plan with the Fort Point Neighborhood Association to confirm that it reflects the, what feels like a good strategy, especially for, engaging and involving the ground floor retail businesses that will undoubtedly be impacted by changes during construction. So I think all of those are items that we, as the Streets Cabinet, know that we need to continue to work on, and we'll continue to be in touch with the neighborhood about that. And to your point about the bike lane and the side of the street, I think that's a conversation as well that we can have in the coming days as we finalize an approach to that aspect of the project. Amy, is there anything you would want to add about the decorative crosswalk idea?
No, I just come get me when you know what you're looking for, and we'll figure out the best way to get it done. I had also started talking with Pat Hoey yesterday about kicking off the square dedication process for that corner as well.
Thanks, Amy. So you want me to reach out directly to you? Is that the best?
Yeah, just like when you've got an idea of what you're looking to do.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments from members of the public or PIC staff?
I think we're all set.
All right, thank you, Todd. And I'd just say, Tom, one last concluding thought is just, again, I want to express appreciation for your and the neighborhood's, great work with us and support for advancing a safe design here. I know this has been it's a complex and long-running project, even before Gracie's death, but certainly that has highlighted, just how important it is to get this work done and to get it done right. And I just very appreciative of the partnership of Fort Point Neighborhood Association and Seaport Neighborhood Association, as well as the Children's Museum, as we've worked through the issues related to that. So just really appreciate for you and all of the community stakeholders who have been involved in getting us here. It's been essential to getting a good design, and very much appreciate it. All right, with that, and hearing no other comments or questions, will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on April 10th?
Yes, Chief. As you expressed, there's a number of things that are still currently being worked out in the background. I mean, some outstanding issues that we'll need to resolve, and we're hoping to have those issues resolved by the next meeting.
All right, excellent. Well, we will see you back here in 2 weeks. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, on to new business number 2, Broadway, Melrose Street, Fayette Street, Charles Street South, Boston proper, specific repairs on a petition by the City of Boston Parks and Recreation Department. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and tell us what you are proposing to do?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us today. I'm Priyanka Mankina, Project Manager at Boston Parks. I'm joined today by our design consultants, Fred Keeler from Hancock Associates and Jim Haro from Copley Wolf Design Group to speak about improvements to the Bay Village Neighborhood Park. Just a little bit of background. Since 2021, Parks and Copley Wolf Design Group have been working together on this project. We've gone through the standard Parks community engagement process and have worked closely with the community to develop a design that can blend the historic character of the site and the needs of the residents. A major goal of the project has been to create a continuous ADA accessible path from Fayette Street to Melrose Street through the park. Other updates to the site include renovating the existing water fountain, new site furniture, and planting. Currently, the park is maintained by the Parks Maintenance Department and will continue to do so moving forward. We have also been coordinating with BTD on their adjacent project at Charles Street South, and the Street Lighting Division and the Environment Division for the gas to light electrical light conversion at the park lights. In March of 2024, Parks held a community briefing in addition to 3 other community meetings that occurred earlier in 2021 to notify the community about changing the gas lights in the park to LED lights. The community has been open and receptive to this idea. There's really no pushback from them. We have presented to and received approval from the Boston Landmarks Commission in August 2024 and recently from BWSC, and are now here in our final stages of permitting, with PIC approval being the last of our permitting process. After this, we'll continue through the construction drawings, go out to bid, and anticipate starting construction in late summer. With that, I will pass it on to Fred and Jim to go over the design and the specific repairs plan.
Okay, thank you, Priyanka. Everything okay?
Thank you, Fred.
Priyanka, you need to share the drawings?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh. No, not anymore.
Priyanka and Fred, I apologize. I'm actually remote. I was expected to be back by a construction meeting into the office, so I'm relying on you to pull up the drawings. And also, I believe Sean Sanger's on here too, so if we need to pull up the rendering, I believe he can pull that up.
Thank you. Fred, we can see the drawings.
I'm still looking at a photograph.
Oh, well, we can see the presentation.
You guys are working on it?
Thank you, Fred.
How's that?
We're seeing your file box. Would you like me to share the drawings?
If you can.
All right. This is the existing conditions. Do you want to speak about those?
Priyanka, I'm still seeing, oh, there you go. Your screen's coming up now. There you go. And Fred, since this is the rendered drawing, if you want me to start with a description of the park improvements, I can do that.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay. So again, I'm James Rue. I'm from Copley Wolf. I believe Sean Sanger should be on the phone with me as well.
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. We started this process in 2021, in everyone masked with all the neighbors out on the site. And the intent started really with upgrading this park to make it ADA accessible. No part of it was ADA accessible. The plaza portion of the park sloped over 3%. It was deteriorating. There were steps coming in off of Charles Street South. And it just needed a complete upgrade, just to make it accessible. So the design really sort of turned the entries back toward Bay Village. You can see them on the right and upper right and lower left-hand corners. and upgrading the brick. The brick was a Boston City Hall paver, and as we know, none of them are the same size, so they're not considered ADA acceptable. We're going with a wire struck paver, and it's being completely regraded. We're saving the 3 large trees that are in the park right now. It's, 2 opposite one another and one on Melrose Street in the park. We're also keeping the mechanical system for the fountain that exists out there right now, yet relocating the location of the basin and refurbishing it and centering it in a point where it's on access with the views as you enter into the park itself. You can see the stair on Charles Street South was removed. So now it's all ADA accessible from Melrose and from Fayette Street. The fence most of the fence will be refurbished. The parts that need to be replaced as a result of the new entries will match the existing fence that's out there right now. As will the retaining wall, because essentially Charles Street South to the park, there's a drop in grade. Not a lot, but there's a drop in grade from the public sidewalk into the park. Drop in grade about 18 inches or so, which accounted for the stairs which came off of Charles Street South. Priyanka mentioned there's going to be some benches. Street Boston Park approves standard benches, and a granite feature that's going to actually elevate the base of the fountain, which will be an intermittent fountain. In other words, the residents can push a button and start the water going, and it will shut off after a certain amount of time. She mentioned also that the BTD was having an adjacent project, which is really to raise the crosswalks both at Fayette and Melrose at Charles Street South. So that portion of the sidewalk, which is not part of the park project, but part of BTD's project, will actually make it ADA accessible crossing those streets at level, so no up and down ramps. The city's green infrastructure has made some requests in terms of preserving the trees on Charles Street South, which is not part of this budget, but will be incorporated into construction of the BTD project. I'm not sure that summarizes it, other than to say that the residents in Bay Village are remarkably vested in the maintenance of this park themselves. So when it says perennial garden, it's not something you normally see in a Boston Parks project, but the residents themselves have been nurturing this park along, probably since its inception, with a very involved residential group who intends to continue that practice into the future. The only portion of the park that doesn't change is up against the building at the top of the page. You can see a light pink tone. That is existing brick up against what is the Chinese church right now. I'm not sure if that's going to be slated for redevelopment sometime in the future, but there's no reason to change the grade, the paving, or anything else within that little strip along there, which was actually the former sidewalk when Broadway used to cut right straight through this site and in toward Boston Public Garden. Everything else is pretty much new that you see on the site plan. And Priyanka went through in detail the gas lanterns, which will be refurbished into LED and located in the planters. Currently, they're actually in the park itself.
Thank you.
I could go on.
Thank you for that introduction. It looks like we have the plans up, so is somebody going to walk through that?
Yeah, sure, I can see if I can speak for just a moment. Fred Keeler from Hancock Associates. I think Priyanka and Jim gave a good overview of the improvements in the park. Along Melrose Street, we're removing and resetting a little bit of the curbing and reconstructing the brick sidewalk in time. And again, on the Fayette Street side, we're also reconstructing a little bit of the existing brick walk inside, in kind, just outside of the new accessible entrance. Otherwise, we've got one street light in Melrose and one new street light in Melrose. the other improvements that Joe and Priyanka described, but we're certainly happy to get into more detail as the commission would like to hear.
Great, thank you very much. And I think as was noted by some of the earlier, this project has overlap associated with the Public Works BTD project on Charles Street South. And so, these two projects are being designed in coordination with one another, it's my understanding, to ensure that they can create a unified whole of an experience once they are both built.
Right.
All right. Anything else from the proponents that you'd like to share? If not, commissioners, questions, comments?
Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm just wondering if the team could elaborate a little bit more on any maintenance agreements or the maintenance plan for the wire cut brick in the right of way, as well as for the park.
Sure. So currently the park is being maintained by the Parks Department, and it would be taken on, it would continue that relationship to do that. I don't know if that answers your questions. We have our Parks Department on there.
And Sarah, if I could elaborate on that. Currently, the Boston City Hall paver that's in the park right now is not set on a concrete slab. It's set on a compacted aggregate base. So not only are the pavers irregular in size, as I'm sure you well know, but there's differential settlement and movement below those pavers. So it makes it a pretty, undesirable surfacing for anyone who's in a wheelchair or has walking issues. The new pavers, which are wire struck, so they'll be gauged, they're all the same thickness and widths and lengths, et cetera, will be set on a bituminous setting bed over a 6-inch concrete slab to maintain, the integrity of the pavers vertically, so there won't be any movement. As you said, I'm sure you well know that Bay Village is somewhat hazardous to anyone who walks well, so never mind anyone who's trying to negotiate with a wheelchair or walker or something. So this park will actually be quite a step up, and you can see that those pavers are being extended at least into the public way on Melrose Street, and they will also be the wire struck pavers as well. So we're not doing anything about the rest of Bay Village, as you know, but at least the entries into the park will continue with that same better paver system for anyone in a wheelchair or walker.
We're certainly looking forward to these improvements with the wire cut brick. As you mentioned, it's much preferred over the City Hall pavers. I was just wondering about the long-term maintenance. If a brick does get loose, just making sure that there is a plan in place for somebody to be responsible for.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that will
Yes.
fall over Boston Parks, but you should be at least comforted to know that this has been a well cared for park by the residents almost since its inception. And they are on top of things. Now, whether or not they do the maintenance or not, I don't know, but I'm sure they will have, the red phone in the corner of the desk right to Priyanka's office.
Right.
Thank you.
And I'll just add that we do anticipate that the Parks Department will enter into a maintenance agreement with PIC for all of the specialty aspects.
Yes.
All right, commissioners, any other questions, comments? Members of the public or PIC staff? Go ahead, Scott.
No, good morning. Appreciate the time. And my name is Scott Orzell. I'm the president of the Bay Village Neighborhood Association. I also live on Melrose Street. So great to see this coming to fruition after 3 or 4 years of waiting. Love the design. And we've been in contact with our neighborhood liaison, Sarah Sharp, too, about this. And Priyanka, thank you for all of your efforts as well. I think the one thing we want, and love the fact that this is being integrated with the Charles Street South work as well. The one thing that we ask, and there's going to be a conversation that Sarah's helping us to pull together, is given that this work is going to involve both changing the lighting and the kind of the installation of the hardscape, we are really hoping that those two efforts can be coordinated such that we don't finish like the hardscape first and then we have to pull it apart because the lighting is coming in behind. And so we'd really appreciate what could be done to make sure that there's an integrated plan for this across the lighting piece and the broader hardscape.
Sure, I can take that on. So as I mentioned, we've been working with the Environment Department Street Lighting Division to make sure that doesn't happen. That's the last thing we want to do is put together this brand new park and then have it torn up. So the plan right now is to have the lighting improvements completed, installed, and then as soon as that is done, Parks is going to come in and begin construction.
Okay, so it'll go lights first?
It's lights first and then construction so that we can manage that. And this will also then avoid several GCs on site and everything like that.
And thank you. A second comment, and James, you're right on. We have a very active group of folks who not only manage this park, but a number of parks in Bay Village. Not the hardscapes, obviously, but the plantings and such. So, in fact, this park is lovingly referred to as Tom's Park. Tom passed away last year, unfortunately. But yeah. So, and then on a lighter note, if you would like to continue those pavers down Melrose Street, the entire length, we'd be all for it. But that's probably another meeting. So I appreciate everyone pulling together on this. We look forward to collaborating with you on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And we will get there eventually on the remaining sidewalks. Just to add on Priyanka's comment, I think there's, and I know, Scott, you know this, but this is a sort of unusually complex set of city projects happening all in one place, with both the Parks project, the Streets project on Charles Street South, but also the street lighting portion of this being handled through the Environment Department under a different contracting vehicle with support from the Public Works Street Lighting Division. So there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and I think we have heard loud and clear from the community and in our internal conversations that we need to make sure that everything is sequenced and coordinated in a rational way. And so just to echo Priyanka's commitment, on the street side of the house, we will also make sure that we are putting both our construction team and our street lighting team into the mix in a way that aligns the different streams of work and does not result in wasted effort or things being damaged that have already been installed. So this will be a team effort on the part of multiple city departments, but we know that we need that coordination and commit to doing it.
Right.
Well, we appreciate it and appreciate your collaboration as well. So thank you.
Of course. All right. Any other comments or questions? Todd, anything?
Well, I think we're good on this one.
Wonderful. All right. We'll be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on April 10th.
Yes.
Great. We'll see you back here then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. On to our next agenda item, new business 3, 20 and 50 Western Avenue, Brighton, pedestrian easement specific repairs on a set of joint petitions by Alston Phase A Hotel Owner LLC and the President and Fellows of Harvard College. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and walk us through the actions you are proposing to take?
Good morning, everyone. Chairman, members of the Commission, thank you for taking the time to review our project. My name is Rohit Chauhan, and I'm a member of the development team at Tishman Speyer. We are developing the Enterprise Research Campus in partnership with Harvard University. I'm joined by my colleagues from Tishman Speyer and our consultant teams from Niche, VHP, and Nutter. In a second, I'll turn it over to Deborah Dalek from Niche. But before that, I wanted to take a moment to quickly introduce the project for context. The ERC is roughly 1 million square feet of mixed-use development that we are currently constructing in Alston, directly adjacent to the Harvard Business School. The project will feature 500,000 square feet of R&D space, 343 residential units, a 246-key hotel, and 60,000 square feet conferencing facility for Harvard. The improvements along 20 and 50 Western Avenue that we are about to present were the result of the Article 80 process completed in 2022 and were conceptualized in close collaboration with Boston Transportation Department, BPDA transportation staff, and community organizations like the Harvard Alston Task Force. Through these, our goal is to make Western Avenue a more accessible and pedestrian-friendly thoroughfare that improves the public realm and encourages the use of mass and sustainable forms of transportation. With that, I will now turn it over to Deb to walk us through the specifics.
Thank you so much, Rohit. As Rohit mentioned, the goal of this project is not only to improve these private parcels, but also the circulation around it, as well as on Western Avenue. This aerial that you can see here, this is the location of our site. To the east, we have Soldiers Field Road and the Charles River. Harvard Business School is at the north, and North Harvard Avenue comes down to this end. This photo in the upper right is the existing condition of the Western Ave sidewalk immediately adjacent to our site today. Well, actually, sorry, not today, but prior to the start of construction. You can see from this great aerial photo that the project team has worked really hard to get approvals for the work within the site. We also have, Boston Water and Sewer Commission approval for the utility improvements to the buildings around the site. There's also new going to be public roadways that bound it on both sides that we'll see on the plans I'll show in a minute. And also working closely with Boston Transportation Department to make sure that the work that we're doing within the private site is in a place and location and is working with the public way improvements that we're proposing to you today. So prior to us starting construction, where the contractor has taken over use of a part of the sidewalk in order to get that work done through approvals with the city, the sidewalk directly adjacent to our project looked like this. It was cement concrete, trees that used to be there, some that were there that were dead, as well as street lights were really the facilities supporting pedestrians. As you can see in this photo, the bike lane and accommodations were within the asphalt. The eastbound bike lane adjacent to the curb, and the northbound adjacent to the curb as well. We're working hard to continue the corridor that was started by the Harvard Science Center building west of our site, closer to North Harvard Street. These are some photos of the existing conditions at Stadium Way, where you can see that project work to take the bicycle facilities on the eastern side, close to our project side of the sidewalk, move them within the sidewalk, and maintain the bike lane on the northern side of the road, the westbound bike lane, within the asphalt area, and to make sure to provide some stanchions and some separation. I show this just because the next images that we're going to see some green painting as part of the bike path in order to, alert pedestrians and bicycles that there are interchanges happening. You can also see in these photos that the bicycle crossings and the pedestrian crossings are separated. You'll see those as we come to our proposed design that's going to end up in front of our project at the ERC. This is a zoomed out version of basically the changes that we're proposing. We're proposing changes throughout the width of the public way. As part of our proposed changes, we're going to maintain the existing sidewalk on the northern side of Western Avenue. And just to orient you, that circle that you saw was right about here. We have basically a new block width of our work. Those new roadways that we could see wrapping around these buildings and the parcels that you saw, Trotting Avenue and Milestone Street,
have previously been approved by the Public Improvement Commission, and the connections that you'll see for bike lane and pedestrians that go up and down the page on these new streets have been coordinated with that work. As we look to the Western Avenue improvements, we have the buildings that abut it. We have a hotel building. We have Harvard has a conference center called the Treehouse. And then we also have this area that we're calling the laneway, which actually is a pedestrian-friendly area that has seatings and accommodations that goes to more greenway facilities. And I'm sorry that I'll go back a bunch of slides, but I just want to show you what that looks like. You can see this laneway area is just a great way to welcome people to what's happening in between these buildings, where there'll be a lot of public facilities and programming. As we look at these improvements that are happening in front of these different uses, a hotel where, basically two uses where we have potentially people that aren't used to being in this area or need to be picked up and dropped off, whether they're in a taxi or a Lyft, or hopefully they're taking their bike and they're parking it somewhere on here. As I talk through these accommodations, you can see that we tried to, one, give better accommodations for pedestrians, bicycles, buses, and then also just the process that we know happens now with people needing to be by the curb. So we've also proposed within here a new pickup drop-off lane where people can get delivered, where when deliveries are happening, if they need to pull in front, there are accommodations also on Milestone and Trotting Avenue for those. But the reality of people coming down Western Ave, needing a place to stop, that has been provided in the new cross-section that we're showing. So as we talk and we look at this proposed plan starting on the north side of the street and working our way down south to our private site, we're maintaining the existing sidewalk on the northern side of the street, maintaining that curb. We do have one location where we're actually going to install a new bus stop and provide some better accommodations for those there. There'll be an actual cover, there'll be a seat, but we've also made sure to put that outside of the pedestrian path of travel, outside of the right-of-way, as well as redo the sidewalk in this area to make sure that everything is within ADA and slope compliance. As we work our way down south towards our buildings as part of this, these improvements, you can see that we have starting if you're traveling from the east to the west, from the river more towards the center. The bike lane continues and it bumps over so that we can have an open area space here where we'll have the bus drop off as well as the bike lanes. And then we have this protected with 3-foot wide minimum width for the bike lanes continuing as they go to connect to the existing bike lane infrastructure on the western side of our site. That bike lane is a minimum of 8 feet wide. We have the 3-foot wide delineator area with stanchions, and I know recently the city has been installing curbing through these, so we're not showing that now, but we can talk through that. And then also we have the travel lanes for the actual typical vehicles. We have 11-foot travel lanes west, 11-foot travel lane east, and then as you look on the south side, this red part is an actual dedicated bus lane. That bus lane is 12 feet wide and continues over here to where we're going to have a relocated bus stop in the sidewalk. I mentioned we have different accommodations kind of happening at the curb. It's a little hard to tell from here, and you can see as we get into more detailed drawings, but we have basically on either side of the pickup drop-off area where the curb dips towards the buildings, we have landscaped areas. These vary in width from about, 11.5 feet to 13.5 feet. Those are both bounded by curbs. So as you're traveling from asphalt, you hit a granite curb with a 6-inch reveal. We're going to slope up to the site. There'll be a flush curb, and then you'll hit this bike path. So this bike path at the elevation of the sidewalk is 5 foot wide. We're working to delineate that with a 1 foot wide tactile raised curb, and I can show you more details on that. And then we have a minimum 7.5 foot wide sidewalk for the pedestrians in concrete. The bike path itself will be asphalt. In the wider areas of this pickup drop-off, we're proposing trees and landscaped areas. And then in this smaller area where the cars pull in, there's about 3.5 foot wide where we're proposing pervious pavers. These images below give you an idea of kind of those 3 different conditions I mentioned. Over here in front of the hotel, you can see we bump up to the curb, we have the trees, bike path, pedestrians at the same grade. As we're in this middle area where we have less depth on the site and people will be coming in and out of cars, that's where we're proposing the 3.5 foot wide pervious paver strip in between the cars that are parking and dropping people off, the bike path and pedestrians. And as we go in front of the tree house, there's some really cool stuff that's going to be happening. A lot of what you see here is on the private site, but the treehouse building is pulled back further. So as we work from the roadway towards the building, we have the same condition as in front of the hotel, you know, a wide landscaped area with trees, the bike path, and then the pedestrian walkways. And then as we're on the private side of the treehouse in here, they have this really great swale system and boardwalk that will bring actually pedestrians from this corner to the front of the building. As we think about a lot of what we did with this design and coordinating with city agencies was to really look at how do these interactions happen where we have bikes trying to cross the street, we have pedestrians trying to cross the street, maybe go straight through the street. So we worked closely with a bunch of the different agencies, and one of the specific things we were really working hard to coordinate with the Commission for Persons with Disabilities was just that interaction. What is the safest thing that we can do for pedestrians to help them feel comfortable in this situation? So you heard me mention earlier, basically the delineator between the asphalt bike path and the concrete cement pedestrian sidewalk. The commission asked that we install basically a 1 foot wide tactile curb so that there will be basically elevation differentiator between these two. So we're showing that, and it will help with that. Another thing that we looked really closely at was how do people know where they are when they get to these corners where there's definitely differences in ways that you can go. We've done that through a couple of different options. We have one, the tactile raised bumpy panels for pedestrians, basically at any place where they're crossing, either potentially crossing bikes or crossing into public roadway areas. So you'll see here a series of panels, as well as we're also putting in the crosswalk striping. The other thing that we've done is provided, and we're going to provide, is literally green striping like we saw in front of the Science Center further west to delineate to, definitely the bikers, this is the way to go, but also for the contrast for those that are pedestrians to see the difference. One of the other things that we looked really closely at and tried to accommodate was the idea of having raised pedestrian crosswalks on our side, basically on the Western Ave for the crossing of Trotting and Milestone. We have accomplished that through basically a Habsy raised crosswalk. If you're a pedestrian walking through these areas where you see the yellow, all these areas are less than 2% slope in all directions. So you'll just feel like you're walking pretty consistently through a plaza in these delineated areas. And then as you can see, these orange areas, we're going to have in Trotting Avenue and Milestone Street, as the cars approach these intersections, they're going to ramp up a bit to get up to the sidewalk elevation for the crossing. And then as they get more into the roadway and the asphalt actually in Western Avenue, just due to the elevations in that area, that'll be a little less sloped. But we worked hard to try and make it not feel like the pedestrians were going all the way down a ramp across back up, as well as make sure that they're hopefully seen through these areas. One other thing I do want to add, Trotting Avenue and Milestone Street, as you go further down these roads, do have mid-block crossings that are raised, and we're hoping that's, another way to deter vehicles from coming up and being in these areas and going at a higher rate of speed than we would want. I think too, as you look at these plans and other improvements that I may have not mentioned, Western Avenue, within the limit of our work, we're going to do a cold plane and overlay, redo those asphalt surfaces, take off all the existing striping. We actually did some water main work previously, replaced a water main, a Boston Water and Sewer main last summer. So we're gonna work to, get the asphalt new back to that area. So it won't feel like there's just a spot where there isn't consistent asphalt. That's also gonna be a great base for all these new pavement and markings that we're proposing. In addition to the landscape and the trees, the other things that, pedestrians and people will encounter are new streetlights. There'll also be new pole box systems. We're gonna do the dual conduits to meet the street lighting standards. We're also putting in BTD conduits to do some interconnectivity through this area. And then there may be in the future some signalization at Milestone Street as this area continues to increase in usage and development. So we're putting in the underground infrastructure now so that in the future, should this area get signalization at Milestone Street, Western Avenue, and this road here is Kresge Way, which is a main entrance to Harvard Business School and a lot of parking facilities. There will be the pole boxes and conduits available so that the signaling infrastructure, the poles, and the mast arms can go in without having to totally rip up this whole area again in the future. The other thing, and I'm going to open it up to questions in 2 seconds. One other thing that we do have and we've proposed is the City of Boston standard mountable curb within this middle area. The other thing that this laneway provides, the middle of the site, is fire access and protection. So that'll be the city standard with the chamfered top, such that should emergency operations need to get in and through here, they can get up that curb easier. Our other request as we look at all this new stuff that's happening in the roadway and the sidewalk and that extra width, as part of that, we actually need to provide an easement to the city. We have the property line right now, where it is about on the west side of the site is about 13 feet from the extent of the new backup sidewalk, and as we work our way down easterly, that expands to 18 feet. And the reason that gets wider is something that I didn't mention before in this section, is really just to accommodate left turn lanes and some of the wider stuff that's happening here with the bus stop. That pulls some of this in the roadway further down the page to give a wider opening. So I think that's the huge high level and details. I would love to hear some questions or help clarify things.
Thank you very much for that great overview. A lot going on here, but I really appreciate all the thought and care that's gone into the details of these designs. Commissioners, questions, comments?
What's the rumble strip in the roadway?
Oh, thank you, Amy. Yeah, so we had heard and through conversations with the BTD that there was a little bit of concern about basically the connection between, if you imagine if you're a car driving, and I'll zoom in a little bit. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. Whoa, sorry. Right here in the red is the dedicated bus lane. Down here is our area of pickup drop-off. There was a little bit of concern with, the vehicles trying to get into the pickup drop-off, really understanding that there's a dedicated bus lane through here. Buses may be coming through here quickly. So those that we were speaking with at BTD wanted some sort of notification for drivers that they were getting into the bus lane. So we've proposed that with a rumble strip, one of the ones that are the divots in the asphalt. Pretty consistent with a MassDOT standard.
And what's the dimension of the lane, the bus lane, and the lane on the outside of this?
The dimension of the bus lane is 12 feet wide, and the other lane is 11 feet. So the vehicular lane here is 11 feet, and that bus lane is 12 feet wide.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not really sure what this does, right? Like, I think that what alerts you to the bus lane should be it's red. And I'm just not sure what a tactile reminder that you're entering that does to a driver to ensure that they enter a pickup drop-off.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely revisit that and chat more about it. Thank you.
Commissioners, other questions, comments?
Appreciate the team coordinating with my office on various parts of this project. I think notably the tactile delineator on the sidewalk, as well as the intersection treatments at both ends of Western Ave. I'm wondering if we could go to those intersections.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also appreciate the color-coded plan. It was really helpful for staff for understanding what was going on here, because there's a lot going on here. I think one note that we'd like to see in the next plan is just the introduction of another set of detectable warnings. I think on the Trotting Ave intersection, I think there is a little bit of gap right there between the bike lane and the actual crosswalk. Generally speaking, the detectable warning should exist in pairs, so just adding another pair there helps somebody understand what's going on at that intersection.
Absolutely, yep, we can add those in.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Other comments, questions? PIC staff or members of the public?
I will just mention something that I very, very briefly discussed, or staff and I very, very briefly discussed with the project team prior to this hearing. We caught kind of at the 11th hour the fact that this proposed bike lane basically straddles the property line. So maybe half of its width is located within what's proposed to be a pedestrian easement. The pedestrian easement isn't typically, able to accommodate a bike, which is a vehicle, obviously, not a pedestrian. So we would like to discuss with the project team the possibility of converting some or all of this pedestrian easement to a highway easement, which would be kind of a widening of the right-of-way. We certainly don't want to, delay the project at all. I think as long as we come to an understanding on this hearing today, we can advertise appropriately and continue on the current timeline. But I'd love to hear the project team's thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. We have David from Nutter here, and maybe Rohit can speak to that.
And I could just step in probably too. Chris Whittier from Tishman's Fire. Thank you, Todd. And now that we received the form of easement, David, our counsel, and Rohit and I will get on that this afternoon, and we should be able to circle back very quickly with you on that to keep things moving.
Great. Yeah, and I'm not expecting to, finalize the details of that, right this second, but as long as, we have an understanding that there is going to be that widening and relocation with a highway easement as part of this project, we can receive the updated petitions and plans and stuff like that in the next 2 weeks. And like I said, advertise appropriately in the meantime.
Great, thank you.
All right. Hearing nothing else? Wonderful. Will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on April 10th?
Yes, we will, please.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you back here then. And thanks again for all the work with the various folks on the PIC over this project. It's appreciated.
Great. Thank you for your help. See you in 2 weeks.
All right. Moving on to our next item, new business 4, 362 400 Huntington Avenue, Forsyth Street, Roxbury, private utility license on a petition by Northeastern University. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and walk us through what you are hoping to do?
All right, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is John LaPlante. I'm a project manager at Trimont Engineering, and I'll be presenting this project on behalf of Northeastern University. So I'm joined by the project team, consisting of Ryan Ellerding, our civil PE, Sebastian Pivnica, our lead engineer and mechanical PE, and Mike Petrucci, the project manager and Northeastern University representative. As mentioned, we are here seeking a private utility license to extend Northeastern's new high-pressure steam main from Central Campus to the west part of campus. The intent of the project is to connect two new critical pieces of infrastructure that have been installed over the past few years on the north side of campus and the central part of campus with the west part of campus. So just a little background as to why we are here. Northeastern currently owns and operates a low-pressure steam district heating system throughout their campus, and they have steam originating from their central plant. The existing facilities are aging and, in some cases, in need of an upgrade. So as such, Northeastern has partnered with Trimont in an ongoing infrastructure rehab effort aimed at upgrading this district heating system. This has been a multi-year process, and currently we are in a phase where we are in need of the PSC permit. So the main upgrade involves the installation of a new high-pressure steam distribution system with the steam sourced from Vicinity Energy as opposed to their central plant. The intent here is to backfeed the existing low-pressure system with the new high-pressure steam distribution system. So some project specifics. The proposed steam main is a 12-inch welded steel piping system with 2 inches of Pyrogel insulation, a protective aluminum jacket, and it is encased in 5 to 6 inches of fiber-reinforced concrete. So overall, the steam main footprint will be roughly 33 inches wide by 34 inches tall. We're proposing approximately 800 feet of high-pressure steam main and about 100 feet of low-pressure steam main that would be installed within the public right-of-way. In addition to the steam main, we are planning to install a 2-inch steel condensate discharge line and 2 6-inch PEX, or plastic, pumped condensate return lines. These condensate lines will run on top of or immediately adjacent to the steam main, and they'll all be contained within the same trench. So those are some project specifics. I'll get into the overall routing. So the project originates at the intersection of Forsyth Street and a private street on campus, formerly Greenleaf Street. We travel north along Forsyth Street to the first manhole located in front of Doxer Hall. We have a 6-inch service main from the manhole into the building. From there, we continue north along Forsyth and into the Knoll Center for service to that building. When we exit the Knoll Center, the steam main will bifurcate into 2 8-inch lines to cross Forsyth, mostly due to clearance on existing utilities and the Stony Brook concrete channel. Once we cross Forsyth, we'll head towards north on Forsyth, north towards Huntington Ave to a proposed manhole located on campus property. From there, we'll exit the manhole and head easterly along Huntington Ave in front of Cabot Center. The steam main will terminate at a manhole located next to Cabot Center on campus property. So that's the high pressure steam main that'll be installed. In addition, we have some low pressure steam main that will be installed here. So it's about 100 feet. Again, the low pressure will originate in the same location as the high pressure at Forsyth Street and Greenleaf Street, and will travel north along Forsyth to an existing manhole located in front of Doxer, and there will be a low pressure service into the building as well. Additionally, to facilitate some of the changes here to the existing manhole, we will be altering the existing steam main, and that'll be a 6-inch line heading into two 6-inch lines that bifurcated, come back into a single 12-inch steam main into the existing manhole. Well, I will go back to the key plan. Overall, that is the proposed project. Take any questions, comments this time?
Commissioners, questions, comments?
I just ask that this get coordinated with Ed Hesford of our permitting division in advance of the hearing.
Absolutely. We are in contact with Ed now and have been coordinating.
Commissioners, other questions? I have a couple. So, first, can you speak to the trees along Huntington Avenue in the vicinity of this line?
Absolutely. So Mike Petrucci has been in contact with Parks. We actually have already gotten approval to remove and replace all of those trees.
So those trees will be removed as part of construction and then replaced in the same locations?
Correct.
Okay, and Parks is comfortable with the placement of the steam line relative to the root zone and any heat-related issues associated with tree health?
Yes, they did not express any concerns. The tree selection will be, I guess, more in line with the trees that will, successfully grow along Huntington Ave here.
Okay. Yeah, the trees that are there now have not been quite so successful, it would appear. So, second question, just relating to potential utility conflicts. Can you speak to coordination that you've done with other utilities, and in particular with gas utilities? We have had in other locations some significant issues associated with the placement of steam infrastructure close to gas infrastructure, but certainly has potential impacts on all kinds of other adjacent utilities.
Absolutely, and we are well aware of those conflicts and interests. So I have been in coordination with National Grid. Our steam main, it's actually, I'll just go to the low pressure. The low pressure steam main, there were some concerns that the proximity was too close to plastic gas infrastructure that is located on Forsyth heading into World Series Way. It's right about at this location. The gas main on Forsyth is a coated steel, and it transitions the service onto World Series Way to plastic about 4 or 5 feet off of the steel main. So I have been in communication with National Grid. We've agreed to accommodate their 18-foot clearance, and we will be moving this low pressure pipe underneath the high pressure pipe to make sure that we are 18 feet away from the plastic gas main.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and appreciate that coordination up front. Next question relates to restoration plans for Forsyth Street and Huntington, where you may not actually be in the asphalt on Huntington, but can you speak to the sidewalk restoration that will happen? I believe it's brick sidewalk in that location along Huntington, and then also to pavement along Forsyth, which has seen some things over the years and has quite a bit of utility patching in it already. What are you expecting to do here?
As far as the pavers in the sidewalk along Huntington Ave, I believe those will be replaced. And we have made note that there'll be the wire cut bricks as the commission has requested. So that, along with the trees, the bricks, and any of the kind of tree areas will all be kind of rehabilitated and replaced or improved upon.
Will you be doing the entirety of the sidewalk area along the route in wire cut, or are you just planning to patch your trench with wire cut?
I think the trench is going to be pretty significant, so it is more than likely going to be the entire sidewalk.
Okay. And has there been coordination around that kind of corner? There's like a corner plaza that's also done in brick. Can you speak to that? It looks like there's a lot of infrastructure under there. So I think it would just be good to sort of understand the totality of where you expect to replace the brick with new material, so we can understand what the final condition will likely be.
Absolutely. I believe you're talking about this corner here on Forsyth and Huntington?
Correct, yes.
Yep. So we do plan on fully restoring all the infrastructure here. And I do have Mike Petrucci. I don't know, Mike, if you want to speak to any specific designs Northeastern has come up with as far as the rehabilitation of this corner goes.
So as of right now, our Arboretum is working with the tree warden, Max, to determine, any trees that the city would like to see go back in there that are going to be able to flourish. On this corner here, there are a couple of larger trees that are in the city right away that we're close to, but we're not impacting. The tree warden as well as our Arboretum are concerned about. So the existing or the final condition will mirror what it looks like right now. If any of the bricks are in disrepair, we'll have that section repaired or replaced as well.
So I don't want to speak on behalf of the Disabilities Commission, but it would appear that the condition of the bricks and the type of bricks in use today likely doesn't meet our current expectations for accessibility. It also does not appear that there's a proper ADA compliant ramp on that corner going across for the crosswalk across Huntington. So I don't know, Sarah, if again, I don't want to step on, you have the expertise here, but.
Exactly to Chief's point, the current condition of the headramps, I think, all the headramps of this corner are in brick, which don't meet our current city standards. So I think we'll be looking for replacement in cement concrete to meet our current city standards for the headramps, and also using the wire cut brick to ensure that the pavers meet our city standards for materiality on this corner.
So on this corner, we actually have one update that I'm not reflecting on this plan here that needs to be added in at the request of Ed Hesford. He asked that we move construction off of this corner due to the pedestrians and the access, and the manhole is actually sliding further onto campus property, closer to the drain. So we more than likely will not be impacting the corner infrastructure at all. The majority of the work, once we turn in onto campus property, will take place on the campus infrastructure.
I think as it turns down Huntington, you are still impacting those ramps. So I think we'd still ask you to replace those ramps to bring them up to city standards.
Okay.
Yeah, just to reinforce that, I mean, I think understanding that there may be some minor modifications to the location of some of the infrastructure here, this is going to be a substantial disruption along a brick sidewalk and at a corner that doesn't comport with ADA, and it does feel like it would be a appropriate time for the university to do an upgrade of this corner to, and the sidewalks, the brick sidewalks, the ramps to meet current standards, if for no other reason than to ensure that your students who are the primary users of this, one of the primary users of this sidewalk, have an accessible path of travel. And since you will undoubtedly be doing substantial brick and concrete work as part of this project in this area, it would be seem like a great missed opportunity if we did not fix the clearly, longstanding challenges around access here.
We can incorporate that. I believe that's fair. Our disabilities department had similar questions and asked for it. So we can incorporate repairing and replacing the ramps on this corner, as well as depending on how far we are on the adjacent one across. We'll look at that one in front of Knowles as well.
Yeah, and I would ask that you look at sort of all of the brick sidewalk area here too, and try to find the solution that, it would be a shame to have a trench patched with, a wire cut brick and then have, broken, non-accessible brick everywhere around it. So would like to see the whole area upgraded if that's possible.
That was the plan. Okay. Because of the significant trench and the request of BTD to maintain a walkway, we're going to be removing the entirety of the sidewalk. So we're going to replace the entire section with brick from the Cabot Center foundation out to the sidewalk for the length of this trench and excavation.
Excellent. And it would be great if you can coordinate that conversation, one, to reflect that on your next set of plans, and two, just to make sure that the Disabilities Commission has a chance to review the plans and coordinate that.
No problem.
And then the second part of the restoration question was, sorry, Sarah, did you have something you wanted to jump in? That's cool. So the second part of the restoration question was just related to the pavement along Forsyth Street and whether you're planning to fully repave that stretch of Forsyth that is being disrupted, and how you would anticipate if not your trench repairs interacting with the existing trench repairs that are in place there from previous utility projects.
The intent here would be to restore the area impacted by the steam main installation. So it would be to patch this area that is disturbed as we cross.
Okay, so this would be
the steam main here is should be on the sidewalk.
Okay, got it. So it's really only the crossing location that you would be impacting the asphalt along Forsyth there.
Correct, and potentially some asphalt in front of Doxer, but that is mostly on the sidewalk as well.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. All right, and then one last fairly minor item, but there is, I believe, a blue bike station located on the sidewalk in the area that's going to be impacted. Yep, shown on your plans. So just please coordinate in advance with the Blue Bikes team to think about relocation, and hopefully Northeastern can supply an alternative spot for that station to go while construction is underway.
We're planning on moving it across the street at a site that was recently had an old building, Chicken Moose, if you've ever been over there, was removed recently. We're going to be moving the blue bike section over there while we're working on this area.
Excellent, much appreciated. All right, I think that was all my questions. Commissioners, anything else?
Sorry, I did have one last question. How long does the team anticipate construction to be? I know that you are planning to start work hopefully at the end of the semester, but just wondering if this work would impact the fall students as well.
So this is actually going to be a multi-phase construction effort. Right now, we're planning for the 2025 construction season, which should run up to the fall. We will go from the manhole here at the Cabot Quad to the Knoll Center. For the following year, we would look to continue the construction down to Greenleaf Street. At this time, I don't know what kind of plans we have for fall construction. We typically try and fit the construction into the summer after the students leave and before they get back. That is definitely something that the university keeps a close eye on, is the impact to the students.
Our goal is to have this done and wrapped up by the time the students come back, knowing that not only it impacts our students, but the community itself. It also, the replacement of this line feeds critical infrastructure. So if we have a nice warm fall, we're good, but if it's cool, this line, we depend on this for our kitchens, for heating, so we want to be in and out as quick as possible. We don't want to prolong this.
Much appreciated for the information. Thank you.
Well, all right. KC staff or members of the public?
Seeing none, I think we're all set.
All right, excellent. Will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on April 10th?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right, thank you very much. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
On to our next agenda item, new business 5, 75 to 81 Dudley Street, Guild Row, Roxbury, pedestrian easement, specific repairs on a set of petitions by Madison Park Development Corporation. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and let us know what you are proposing to do?
Good morning, Commissioners and Commission Chair, and thank you for your time today. I'm Anna Clemens, the PM for Madison Park Development Corporation, working on 75 Dudley. The project is a 15-unit all-affordable homeownership development. We received bids back from GCs tonight and plan to close this summer and begin construction. I'm joined by Mike Joyce, our civil engineer, who will present our petitions. Mike, take it away.
Hello, Michael Joyce from Joyce Consulting Group, civil engineers for the project. I'll just share my screen here. So you should be seeing just a kind of Google Street View of the existing site. So the existing site is a vacant lot. As Anna Clemens had mentioned, the applicant's proposing to construct 15 units of affordable housing at the site. When the work's all said and done, it'll be 15 condo units, which is somewhat unique in affordable housing. That each unit will be owned by an individual homeowner. So as a result of the proposed project, we're proposing to improve the frontage along the street. Currently, the sidewalk's around 7 to 8 feet in depth, and there are quite a few tree pits. So in some areas, the sidewalk's pinch point shrinks down to about 2.5 feet. It's particularly noticeable in this corner here of Dudley and Guild Row. So what we're proposing to do is increase the overall width of the sidewalk by approximately 10 feet, to approximately 10 feet, not by 10 feet, excuse me, which will improve the existing tree pits, make them to the city standard. So that will increase the minimum width of the sidewalk to 5 feet behind any of the proposed tree pits. In addition to that, we'll be proposing a 2-foot resin-bound aggregate strip along the back of curb to promote stormwater infiltration. We have a new curb alignment along the south side of Dudley Street here. The intent on that is to decrease the pedestrian length to cross the street. In addition to that, we're proposing new ADA compliant curb ramps, which currently the curb ramps and apex ramp put it perpendicular to the proposed crosswalk. Let's see, what else are we doing? We're proposing 2 new bike racks in this area here. We've coordinated updated lighting with the street lighting. It's been quite a process. We've been trying to coordinate. What we've landed on doing is reusing the existing conduit in order to minimize the disturbance to the existing street trees, and any excavation that we do need to do with new conduit for new light poles will be done by hand if it's within the area of the tree root protection area. There is a proposed easement at the rear of along the project frontage to accommodate the new sidewalk. That easement is anywhere between 2 and 3.5 feet in depth into the project property. I think that's really the extent of the proposed project. I'm happy to answer any questions if you want to see it. The pedestrian easement plan is here as well.
We want to export out these areas of projects.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, questions, comments? Hearing none, PIC staff or members of the public?
All set on this one.
Yeah,
All right.
that I can do, yeah.
Seeing no raised hands, I think we are in good shape here. So thank you very much. Will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on April 10th?
Definitely.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Moving on to our last agenda item, new business 6, Wellington Hill Footway, Dorchester, street name change and a petition by the abutters. Would the proponents please introduce themselves and tell us about this proposal?
No, well, yeah.
Hello.
Quickly, this actually is a.
Hi.
I'm Amir Mahdi of the Wellington Hill Neighborhood Association.
So you're referencing.
My councilman was on, but I guess he won't be able to do it, but.
I'm here, but I think it's a great thing for you to lead, Amir.
Okay, thank you. Well, this is something that we've been wanting to do for a while. David was a founding member of the Wellington Hill Neighborhood Association, and community member, all around, good fellow who was very much concerned with working with young people and betterment of the community in general, the greater Boston community, I should say. And we figured, he passed away about maybe a year and a half or so ago, and this would be a great way to honor all the works that he incorporated. He actually trained me on a number of things. I'm not a construction person, but I am a community activist because of him. And I think this is a great, be a great addition to the neighborhood. And I believe we have the required signatures. And
All right. But that's your intro. I'll start something here now, if that's okay.
That's fine.
All right. So good evening or afternoon, Pick. I'm Russell Holmes. I have the honor of representing parts of Mattapan, Dorchester, Hyde Park, Rosendale, and JP. And I live on Wellington Hill. And I've known David for more than 20 years. As Amir said, just an advocate around construction, making sure we have people of color in construction, making sure that he helped to fight, quite frankly, to make sure that Josh Craft and their team had people, when they were looking at redoing the Hazleton Library, that when they came to chat about it, making sure that we had participation from our community. He was a strong advocate for vocational ed over at RCC. And he advocated strongly for this footpath. For many, many years, this footpath had been in disrepair. And this footpath, thankfully, with Councilor Royal, myself, and others, we've now upgraded this footpath. I'm sure Todd can give us the actual final number for what the path has been improved. And we clearly believe that it had been Wellington Hill footpath for a long, long time. David lives, I think, 3 or 4 houses from the footpath, maybe 5. And because of his legacy, we wanted to still recognize his decades of work in the community. I happen to also own a property adjacent. I live on Wellington Hill, but I also own a property adjacent to the footpath. I am one of the signers who absolutely believe we should rename it to David. So we went out, as our mayor said, we have 200 folks, more than that, who signed the actual petition to say in the neighborhood that we believe the path should be renamed for David. And we've had every abutter. Todd has made sure every single abutter have all also signed to say that we believe that we should rename it. And so we're hoping with this strong community support, city council, state rep, community at large, that we can recognize this strong advocate and his family who still lives on Wellington Hill. I'll take any questions, and thank you guys for all you do.
That's great, and appreciate the community coming together to honor the memory of somebody who had such a big impact. Just for my own clarity, what is the full proposed new name for this?
I can't see it, but Todd, can you read it out for me? I think it's the David Lopes footpath. I think it's exactly what we had it signed as. Let me pull it up. Let me pull up the thing we all signed. Give me one moment.
It was David Lowe. David
Zooms. Yeah.
It was,
Thank you, Todd.
Sorry, Todd, I didn't catch that.
Let me find it. We signed it all. Hold on one second. Let me. I happen to be in 2 Zooms, 3 meetings. Sorry, y'all. Should give me a moment.
No worries.
David Lopes Footway is is what's listed on the petition.
That's right.
Got it. All right, excellent. Commissioners.
So right now it does have a name. I think it's been that name for more than 100 years, and the name now says you're on Wellington Hill. Let's say more than we're on Wellington Hill. There you go. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's now Wellington Hill Footway, and we want it to be the David Lopes Footway. Thank you.
Excellent. Commissioners, any questions?
I would say at the public hearing, if we want signage to commemorate this name change and write where, but I think that we should have an idea of what signage we'd like out here by the public hearing.
Well, Madam Commissioner, what happened is now you're on it. Now we got the pathway redone. It hadn't been done in so many years. There's a big old sign right there. We want to replace that sign, take that one down, and put up David Lopes. Wherever the existing 2 signs are is where we would like to put the sign. So we just put up new signs because the new construction just been completed in the last 6 months.
Cool. Accommodate that.
And about the sign, can I just say, when you put up, if it gets approved, the current sign, because it's so large, the wind actually, because it's so large, because the name was so large, the wind has been pushing the sign and turning it. So wherever however they put the sign up this time, if it's approved, it'd be good if the sign stayed and the wind didn't it's so big and floppy, it just moves on its own, it just walks. So it'd be great if they put it up so it doesn't walk on its own.
Good flag for our sign crew. We'll make sure it's securely affixed. Hearing no other comments from commissioners, members of the public, or PIC staff?
Fatima, please go ahead.
Hi, morning or good afternoon. Fatima Ali Salam, representing the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council. As David Lopes had been one of the founding members of the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council, we're in full support of renaming of the footway in his honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Any?
I will also mention that Councilor Brian Worrell has been a part of this proposal and has provided a letter of support and recommendation for this renaming. So that is on the record.
Wonderful. Well, great to see such widespread community support for this, and yeah, excited to see this move forward. There'll need to be a public hearing again in 2 weeks, as is our custom for PIC. But it sounds like we'll be ready to do that in 2 weeks. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Just want to be clear, I have to come back in 2 weeks again?
Todd, what do we need in terms of participants here? We just need one person to be the...
Yeah, it'd be great if we could get at least one person to show up just to be present. I don't think the discussion is going to be extremely robust in 2 weeks, but as a formality.
No problem. I just didn't know I was going to sit on the call for 3 hours, but thank you.
We'll put you first next time. How's that?
All right, now you're talking my language, and I'll be on time.
We're close to
right
that.
on time. All right, thank you much.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. This turned out to be a pretty long hearing, so appreciate it. All right, well, we'll see folks back in 2 weeks for the public hearing for this, as public hearing number 1 for that agenda item. All right.
Quickly changed. We'll be ready. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Oh, we got you. Rep, sorry, you cut out there. Are we good?
Am I done? I'm sorry, I thought I was done. Sorry.
Yeah. You just, your audio cut out there, so just wanted to make sure you didn't have any final words for us, but appreciate it. All right, with that, we've reached the end of our agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. I will see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you.